Right, let's just cut to the chase. I love Warhammer Quest. I love it more than any other board game I've ever played. I probably love it more than I love my dear old mum. And the thing is my mum's a very, very good mum. But can she provide hours of questing without even a game master? Probably not. Also, no, when I say I love Warhammer Quest, I don't mean these jokers. These are not Warhammer Quest. And I'm not talking about this semi-reasonable pretender to the throne either. No, I am talking about proper Warhammer Quest. 90s Warhammer Quest. Warhammer Quest 1995. So, let's dive in together, shall we? Now, Warhammer Quest was a board game released in the mid-90s, in 1995, by Games Workshop. The rules were mainly written by Andy Chambers, although there's a number of other contributors, and it's a sort of sequel to Hero Quest.
Hero Quest.
Hero Quest and Advanced Hero Quest came before Warhammer Quest, and they were made, I think Hero Quest was made in collaboration with MB, and Advanced Hero Quest was just Games Workshop, and then Warhammer Quest came along. During the game, players create characters, and not just the standard, elf, barbarian, dwarf, and wizard, but also ogres, witch hunters, war dancers, warrior priests, and all kind of weirdos native to the Warhammer world. Let's talk about why I like this. Let's start with the box. This box art is great. It is everything that I want from box. Back when they used to actually, pay someone to paint something instead of this nonsense now where it's all, pictures of models and that kind of rubbish where just going to pay a photographer. No, this was painted by Jeff Taylor. Jeff Taylor did a lot of Warhammer art in the 90s, and this is very typical of his style. Kind of, I don't know, a bit more high fantasy than people like John Blanche and Ian Miller, who were doing a lot for Warhammer in the 1990s. But just look at it, right? We have the barbarian front and center. It's almost certainly a callback to Les Edwards' box art for Hero Quest. This here is, you have the barbarian front and center, and look at this vast boiling cauldron of evil magic, the light rising, glinting off the musculature, and then you have the supporting characters, the wizard and the elf. I suppose the dwarf must be here somewhere. Is he here? Oh, I can't see the dwarf anywhere. What a shame, seeing as he is the best. But what also makes this art interesting, to me at least, is just the scale of it. You have the columnar kind of collapse on this side. You can even see, I'm not sure if the camera pick it up, see enemies swarming in from the distance. It gives a great sense that these dungeons that we're going to be exploring, they're not going to be kind of cramped holes in the floor, full of the ends of worms and an oozy smell, but instead they are going to be vast, cavernous, epic in scale to match epic adventuring. So what's in the box and how does it play? Well, it's full of miniatures, and you get the 4 basic heroes, and the way the game works is you use dice to roll up a character, and you use dice to roll up an adventure that you're going to play. And then how it works is you have a deck of cards, the dungeon cards, and you draw them one at a time, which reveals the next part of the dungeon. And as you enter a room, you draw another card, or you can roll on a table and to determine what is in there. And you can fight everything from Skaven, rat men, goblins, snotlings, chaos warriors, centaurs, demons. Everything can come up, and everything is related to the level of the player characters. And as you go through, your wizard is rolling their power dice to see if what the winds of magic are like. You're rolling your encounter dice. You can come up against traps. You can be sealed in rooms. You can find secret chambers. There is so much that can go on, and it is just absolutely wonderful. It is my favorite game in the whole world, and I have played many. I've lost so many hours to it. It is evocative of a type of fantasy that I just think is not particularly popular anymore, which is just straight dungeoneering, sword and sorcery heroism against foes unknown. Now, as you go through the game, your characters level up, and more interestingly, this game contains something that sets it apart from every other board game that you will ever play, and that is this the role-play book. I have talked about the games I like before that Games Workshop have done. I talked about Mordheim. You can see my review of that here, or my description of that here. And in the role-play book for Warhammer Quest, there is breakdowns for what characters do when they return to settlements. There are rules for traveling between settlements, the kind of encounters they get on the road. They can be beset by bandits. They can find prophetic pools of dreams. They can even be the subject of tornadoes and lightning. They can find dungeons. Everything that you would want. And this is all without a game master. That's what makes it enjoyable. I have lost many an hour soaking the Bugmans and rolling dice in the forgotten places of the old world with Warhammer Quest. And when they return to town, there are rules for visiting locations, alehouses, blacksmiths, gunsmiths, temples, gambling houses, wizards guilds, all sorts of different things that are interesting and cool. And there's all sorts of events that can happen, out of control machinery. They can do a good day's work. They can have a mistaken identity. They can be accused of being a witch. And what is more exciting is that in the expansions, all of this is expanded too. So every single character, you have the Witch Hunter expansion. You don't just get to play a Witch Hunter, but you get all their settlement events. So when your Witch Hunter goes to a settlement, they can begin a witch hunt. They can chase down a creature, and they can find out what happens to them. Characters can age out and have catastrophic events that cause them to end their adventuring life. It is all about provoking and evoking an emergent narrative that I don't think any other game masterless game has ever captured, because it rewards you not always for taking the action that is going to be the best for you. Actually, it rewards you sometimes for taking the action that is best for the party or the most interesting thing narratively. There's dozens of expansions. There's the Lair of the Orc Warlord, and there is the undead one, the Lich Lord one. But there's also one for dozens of characters, and there is loads and loads and loads of fan-made adventures. This is something that is still supported by a really strong community even now. I barely go a kind of month without cracking out Warhammer Quest because I think it is that good. It is so. I love the fact, as someone who is a forever GM, never said that was a bad thing. I like being a forever GM. But as somebody who's a forever GM, it is great to turn up to the table and just be like, yeah, we're going to play some Warhammer Quest. I don't need to think about what to prep. We can just get some characters, we can get going. Right? I always play Gottfried, the Witch Hunter. He's my favourite character. And then, what else is there? Games Workshop put out a series of supporting magazines for this. These are a bit hard to get hold of now. Deathblow magazine. And in Deathblow, there are even more rules for things like traveling on ships, additional adventures. There's all sorts of extra stuff that just make the game more and more and more. Rules for traveling to Lustria and the jungles in the Warhammer world. All sorts of stuff that is just like, man, like, how was this game not like the most popular thing that was published in the mid-90s? I don't understand how it's secondary to Hero Quest, which requires effectively a game master. Now, you can play Warhammer Quest with a game master, but you don't need one. You don't need it. I don't understand why this is not like something that we should be pushing. It is just fantastic. I love it so much that I started to rewrite the whole game from the ground up using my homebrew OSR, well, old school adjacent rule set, Journeyman Expert Master. I can't publish it because obviously it's got to be something I've got to keep to myself, but in that version, it's just like normal Warhammer Quest, but instead of using cards to generate, because I'm not into that whole kind of making cards kind of malarkey. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. But I stole the depth crawl mechanic from Emmett Allen's The Gardens of Yin. You can see my review for that here, and just set up loads and loads of Warhammer themed dungeons, things like Backstreets and Altdorf and Karak Asgaraz beneath it, and Les, all sorts of interesting stuff. It is a game that continuously I give to it and it gives to me. And it is one of those things that has been a fulcrum piece in my friend group for years. And I think we're going to keep playing it for years more because it's just everything that I've needed from gaming. So that is why I like Warhammer Quest. So why you should be looking at it, why you should be like not ignoring it as an artifact of the past and instead going, oh, this is cool, I want to have a read of this. Even if you would have got an electronic copy of the roleplay book and had a look through it and stole some encounter ideas for your own games, that is what you should be doing, because I absolutely love it. I just think that everyone should have a look at it at some point. So that is Warhammer Quest. Thank you for listening to my kind of endless but enthusiastic rant about this game, because I love it. I'm Gary. Like and subscribe below. I'll speak with you again soon. Thank you.